Hello everybody, and thank you for joining me today. My name is Gabriel Brent, and we are doing the APA Swing Pub. That is right. We are going to be forecasting the foreign exchange markets here and wrapping up and seeing how our forecast looked last week, as well as forecasting what's going to happen next week. So let's go ahead and get started. Assumptions. I think that's an important place to begin is where are we? What are we doing here? What does this stuff all look like? We're looking at a weekly, a daily, and a 60-minute chart. This is where we're coming from, okay? And we do these 3 different time frame perspectives just so everybody can follow along with us, as well as we have this wonderful little market analyzer that plugs into our neural network that allows us to see when the trend is up, when the trend is down, and when it's rolling over. So we can instantly identify all of those things, as well as whenever we receive long or short signals based upon the APA zone's trend following techniques here. So let's go ahead and get started. Looking at the AC market, as we look at this particular market here, what I think is very interesting is that we are down here at the bottom of a weekly level. And on the daily time frame, we were looking at a possible reversal point here last week, and we identified it because of the fractal confluence of the weekly and the daily time frames coming together. The trend is still down, but we have had a nice big pop. You see this blue candle, and that's where the Elite software is actually coloring the candle blue based upon the criteria of it being a big, powerful candle. Okay, red candles are big black candles, blue candles, big green candles. Okay, and this is just part of what the Elite software and the neural network does for us is it identifies all kinds of market conditions and identifies them for us and gives us a nice definition of trend based upon those ideas. So if you've been trading for a long period of time, let's just say 20 years, you will feel right at home because this is more than likely what you're already going to be looking at and summing the market up as. So it's a pretty cool piece of software. Now, as we look at this possible reversal point, we still haven't confirmed that it's a true reversal. We're really at the top of the range still, so we have to take both perspectives into play. The trend follow would be down like this, and the counter trend would be up like so. Okay. Right now, it's too early to tell. If we can get a close below this point right now, this daily candle is printing out as a hammer, but it's in the wrong area. That's an interesting sign because I could easily see this happening because the hammer is in the wrong area. Okay, so if the hammer is in the wrong area, as in it's high instead of low, then this is what I would think would happen. So this is more important than that up there. So this is kind of an afterthought, but this could happen too. All right. Right now we're on the top of the range and the trend is still down. But I do think it's wonderful how price popped out of this daily and weekly zone confluence. Moving over to the AJ market. We've moved from high down to low once again, and over the past week we've just really been staying inside of this level here. So you can kind of see what we're looking at there, but we've just been inside the weekly level, ranging around inside of it. And over here on this market, on the daily time frame, we've been looking short this entire time after pushing off the weekly level, and now we have daily demand down here. So you can kind of see how prices bounces off this nice daily zone here in the past couple days, and we're still looking to the downside. So this is just a range play. That's all it is, and it's retesting the extremes of the low. So is it going to break? I would bet on yes, it's going to break. Okay, so I'm still looking short on this market. Nothing's really changed. I'm going to move this arrow around though, just so that we know, like, trend follow is to the downside, counter trend is to the long. Okay, and I'm going to put that behind price just so that we have a good understanding of what we're doing here, okay, and why we're doing what we're doing here. All right, So right now I would say it's not the time to be getting into this position. If you could have gotten into this position off of this candle or off the engulf of this candle over here, that's awesome. And there were a few opportunities to do that because I did that. But if you didn't get on to the downside after this, then right now I see it as being too late to get short. Over here on the GN markets, you can see that prices stair-stepped to the downside. We have zones on top of zones, and we've retested this level, and now we've gotten a big weekly bar engulf off of a weekly zone, which makes this really, really interesting. So on the daily time frame, our trend is up, but we know that from a weekly time frame, this thing is just had a huge engulfing candle from there. Okay, so which one do we let play out? Which one is going to be the right one? Well, because of the context chart, I'm actually going to be going with the up on this one. Even though supply and demand are on a bigger picture saying that it's respected supply, this really isn't a bad area to be looking for the long play. Okay, so we're starting to see like an inside bar here, just a really interesting candle here on the daily. So, and again, this is really close to a shooting star candle, except it's in the wrong place. So what does that mean? Well, if you guys don't know, I recommend checking out our price action school, and we can go through all that fine stuff in that and how it relates to trend and context of everything. So just a very interesting place for price to find support right down here at the bottom of the daily zone. And again, I'm going to be looking to the long side, just obeying that trend idea there. Moving over here to the GP market. You can see that we have drawn a nice little trend line here on the daily time frame, but we're kind of in the range overall in between this purple zone and brown zone. And because the brown zone has been retested so many times, I would think that if we get another retest of it, it could likely break. Okay, so over here on the daily, we see the top part of the range being formed up here off of this blue zone. You can see the nice outside engulfing candle coming down out of that daily resistance level or supply level. And you can also see the nice little trend line that we have drawn here. Now, because this has already received the third bounce on this trend line, I don't really expect this trend line to hold. So I'm thinking that this is weak. And I really like the short idea on all of this. So getting into this trade is going to be the tricky part though, because if you're going to jump on to the downside, you have to jump in and jump on it in a way that, well, it's a nice pullback. You have to really wait for price to give you the signs that it's going to do something here. Okay, so you need to wait for the pullback into resistance and then sell it. To jump on it when it's right there in the middle, I just don't like it, and I think it's a good way to get a stop out. It might be a small stop out, but I think it would be a pretty easy way to get a stop out, unless you're putting your stop on top of that daily pivot up there, which I don't really recommend at all, just because your risk reward is so far out of whack if you do that. So that's what I see happening on that market. So trend is still down, and I think we could see the bottom part of this range and weekly level here next week. So moving over to the UJ, you can see that we're bouncing off of weekly supply. This is the yellow zone, so it's been tested a few times here. On the daily, I thought this was really, really interesting. This market, we had a really nice inside candle here as price retested this just a couple days ago, and you can see that, well, we basically had a very nice inside candle that was just barely at the top up here at this resistance level, and we've dropped back down into the daily level. So if you were able to get on it, good job. This is something that I was looking for here last week as well, And after seeing that inside candle come in there, that just got me like really excited about this potential short play, because it's playing off the weekly, playing off the daily, and you know, then we can come into like the 60-minute, and you can kind of see how price has failed right around in that area. Okay, so this is the daily bar here. All right, and then we can see price dropping from those points there. All right, and so I thought this was a really interesting short, and it's just very, very nice overall, and a very, very cool market to be watching, as weekly and daily zones are in alignment with the trend. So we'll continue to watch that one, but right now it's coming into daily demand, so I'd be looking for the pop to the upside and then continue on down. Over here on the GA, we have a trendline bounce on the weekly. Okay, and I think this is really, really interesting as well. And I just got lucky putting this diamond kind of there. It just has kind of formed here over the past few days that we've been watching this one. I really wasn't planning on this one working out exactly like it did, but you know what? We identified this as a potential short here a few weeks ago, and it's just really turned out quite nice, you know. We see some good price failure points here coming into, well, now it's a brown zone, but just really, really interesting price action here. And then we see the big black bar that confirms the level for us, and we're moving into this daily level. Okay, so right now I feel like we're getting a little bit of a retracement to the upside, and then we should continue on to the downside here. Now, I also drew this line, and I think this line is kind of an interesting line. I believe this line is from that previous pivot over there. Okay. All right, so we may be forming a new weekly zone right below here. So remember how sometimes we get levels on top of levels? I think that this might be what's going on as well here. We may be stopping just short of it and forming a new level, but only time will tell, you know. But right now I see us continuing on to the downside for the next week. Maybe a little retracement here, but we'll retest this daily demand and see how strong it truly is. Moving over to the AN market, been on a downtrend on here, and we are testing weekly support. Okay, so as we retest weekly support, I think it's just really interesting that we find ourselves here right now. Okay, now with the weekly candle that we have in this says that this is more than likely going to continue on to the downside. All right, that's what it's telling me on the weekly bars. On the daily bars, it also says, hey, we've just made a new low, so let's continue on to the downside. There is no retracement as of yet, so I think it's important that we just keep on running with what this elite software says is down and trending. So just go with that. The pullback was really not nearly as strong as I would like it to be, but it was what it was. So, but I'm still going to be looking to the short side here, and maybe if we're lucky we can find a pullback to get short from, but right now I don't really see anything as far as bigger levels that I really want to play on this one. Okay, like the yen dollar, like, or dollar yen, you know, like this was a cool position. Okay, what we saw there, not so cool. Now moving over to the UC, looking at the big picture, big weekly picture, can kind of see some consolidation here, but it's happening at, and we've been moving down very nicely on this. So I would still like to see us move down here, but we have received a pop up, okay, right? I feel like this is a big weekly retracement, and I would still be looking to the downside. So moving over to the daily, this has been very, very interesting here. I popped the shorts last week off of this level as well, and I got two good targets, and then I've gotten stopped out on my runner. Okay, so coming into this level yet again, I still feel like this level is intact, okay, but I'm not ready to pop the short just yet. You know, I see this nice inside candle here, and that's very interesting to me, and I was thinking that we were going to draw a nice little trend line to the downside here off of this, kind of like that. But then today's candle came up there and it made a new high, okay? So right now I'm going to wait and see. I'm probably a few days out before I take another potential short pull or short stab at this one. But I got in one position here. I was hoping to be able to scale in as this thing continued to push to the downside, but it stopped me out. So we're just gonna, or at least I'm just gonna wait around for this thing to tell me whether or not it's gonna respect this level again for a second time. Okay. So, but I'm still looking down. I like the trend line here. As of yesterday, it was in play. Today, it has been broken. So just got to wait patiently and do what we ought to on this one. But again, I still feel like the trend on this one is to the downside. All right. And looking at it, I mean, we're in a fresh supply zone here on the weekly. So we got some good confluence going along there. And we just got to stay patient is the way that I look at it. Moving here to the AC market. This one is also a very interesting market to me. We can see price bouncing out of the weekly supply, so we know that it was a high point. And over here on the daily, we got some really nice consolidation and then breakthrough. And we see these big black candles or big red candles coming into play as the automated software identifies that for us. Okay. Now we've moved into a little bit of a range period. Okay. And I think that's kind of interesting on the daily. So I'm still looking for us to continue on to the short side, but realize that we're starting to range out here just a little bit too. All right. So I'm kind of hoping for a box formation, if you guys are familiar with that. If you guys have gone through the price action school, then you should be. So I'm looking for a box pattern to be drawn somewhere in this range, if you will. All right, and then continue on to the downside here. And I don't think that this support zone or demand zone is going to hold, just because it is counter the direction of the trend. It's counter trend, right? So it should break, but obviously it's held long enough to give us somewhat of a range period of time here, which is exactly what the software says. Moving right along to the Aussie dollar. Now the Aussie dollar has also been a very interesting market to me here lately. We've had this retest of weekly supply, and we've dropped out of this, okay, over the past few weeks. And here as of late, we've just received a retest of this daily zone, okay? So you can see the little retest of this daily level, and you can see how we've been pushing down out of the bigger time frame daily and weekly zone up there, and it feels like the trend is firmly intact. We've just gone a little bit sideways, not too bad, but we've retested this daily level here, and and really good potential shorting opportunity out of this daily zone. So if you guys were watching last night's, or excuse me, what I consider last night's news, as we had some news on the Aussie, it did present itself with a really good shorting opportunity over here. And you can kind of see this on the hourly chart there. A nice big shooting star candle coming into this 60-minute zone, and then a pretty good nice push to the downside after a little bit of consolidation. So just realize that what's going on there and what it looks like in the big picture, and it's pretty easy to be short on this market. So I'm going to go ahead and draw the arrow to the short side. I'm really looking to see what the daily level, the daily support level shows us down here. Because we're in the middle of a downtrend, I don't think it's going to hold. I think it's going to break the next time it gets revisited. So if it gets revisited, I think it's going to pierce it. So we will see how that works. Moving over to the EG market, we have retested weekly supply on this one. So this is really good for me. I'm starting to take note of this just because of the wick inside that candle, or inside there. All right, that's wicked inside the weekly level. All right, it's a fresh level, and I think that is really, really cool. So looking here on the daily, I'm looking for opportunities to sell. Just straight up, I'm looking for selling opportunities. And I think that's what we can do once we take these two in confluence with one another. You know, like we have this huge weekly level. So I'm looking for a good pullback so that I can get short out of here. Okay. So the only level that I see right there is this one, right? That's the only one that I see. The only one that I'm interested in is right there. So we'll see what happens. I needed to get a little bit higher, but then if it can, you know, if we can do this little pop back up into this level, I think that would be amazing. But realize that we're in a weekly level, so you know, if risk to reward is there and the price action is there that confirms this level, even if it's not touching the daily level, you could take it, okay, and see how it plays out. You might get a deeper retest, but hey, if you can get a T1 and a T2 out of a trade off of this big weekly level, which is totally possible before you retest the daily support level down here, I think that's really cool. So I'm just going to wait patiently and be very mindful of this particular market here in the next few weeks. It's not primed and ready just yet, but it is getting really close. Okay, so let's just be on the lookout for the shorting opportunity on this particular market. And again, if you guys have any questions or any thoughts, I'd love to hear them or raise your hand as we are moving through all these different markets. Moving over to the NU market. Now this has been an interesting market for me to watch over the past few months, I should say, as we've been doing our forecasting, because we really saw this thing breaking to the upside, and it really did break to the upside very nicely. But now I feel like something new is going on here, and we just formed, you see how the levels, the weekly levels are starting to stack on top of each other? I think something new is happening here, okay? So we're retesting a weekly supply level up here at the top of the weekly supply, and it is overlapping weekly demand. So I don't know that this demand level is really going to hold. I'm actually looking for it to break, to be quite honest with you, okay? And I'm looking for price to come to the downside, all right? So I feel like we're starting to do this down and rangey thing. The trend is rolling over, and we're starting to see something new here. So we'll see if that thing continues to play out. Again, I think it's important to note where the weekly level is, just so that we know when, maybe price is beating that level. Okay, so that's what the weekly level and the daily level look like overlapped. Again, this market is in a range, okay? It's really choppy, it's really messy. Price has spent a lot of time in this as there's been a lot of indecision on this market. Yes, we have formed some new lows down here. I think that's pretty cool. We saw a nice pop, but now I'm kind of feeling like this thing could come back down again, all right? Do I know that that's going to happen for sure? No, but I know that this level's getting weak, and if we can get another retest down into the lower ranges of what you might consider the bottom of like the range down here, okay, down there, I think it's going to break, okay? But if price doesn't get down there, then, I think we could pop back up a little bit higher, okay? But right now we're in a range. Right now, it's not interesting to me for a trade setup because we're in the range. If anything, I'm looking to the short side, all right, just because I feel like that's what's new and what's happening here. But I'm going to be very careful on stepping on the short. I want to put in small size on my positions as I step into this thing, because if anything, I'm at the top of the range, and I don't know that this range is going to hold per se, but it could be a nice shorting opportunity, okay, into a new trend direction that we have here. So that's what I'm going to be looking for as far as this position, is to tread softly and make sure that these levels here are really going to hold. Moving over to the EU, we can see prices bouncing off of weekly. Looks like we have a weekly retest. So as we're looking at the weekly retest, we've found ourselves in somewhat of the muck and mire, kind of like we see on the NU, okay? Just with the Kiwi where it's at, and with the Euro where it's at, it's kind of rangy stuff, So again, I want to step very gently on this one. If I do take a short on here, I'm going to be looking for daily confluence. So I really would like something that gave me some space, because right now in this thing doesn't give me any space to take it before I'm like right at the lows again. And if it doesn't like make a new low, I almost can't even pull off a profit target here, So I don't like playing that low on the curve. This is really too low on the curve for me to want to play on this, okay? Maybe if you're able to jump into the 60-minute time frame, you might be able to play it off of the 60-minute, but right now for me it's just too low on the curve for me to want to play it off my daily zones and daily chart like I like to do. So, but I'm looking for a new trend to be doing something here and for it to be rolling over to the downside. So we will see how that continues to go on throughout this next week, okay? It also would be nice to break out of this little range that we've put ourselves in as well. So thank you everybody for joining me today. I really appreciate your time, and we will do this again next week. And as always, we will be posting this on YouTube, so please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel to be alerted when we post up our next APA forecast video or next training video. So we will see you next time.